listed buildings of the Russian avant-garde. They'll also discuss their families, architectural tradition, and other examples of their work in Moscow. I think a lot of you know, but I will just perhaps state the obvious. The Narkomfin building is a renowned example of constructivist architecture and conceived as a type of experimental housing. The DNA of much of modernism can be traced back to Narkomfin, both in the visual language and in the social ambition. Le Corbusier visited and studied it, and he acknowledged his unité owed much to Narkomfin, as did Bertolt Lubetkin, Denis Lasdun, Moshe Safdie, and many others in their work. Alexey was born to a family of architects in Moscow. He's the fourth generation. Graduated from the Moscow Architectural Institute in '93, completed his PhD at RMIT, probably in 2023, and Natalia and Alexey just explained it took a year for the certificate to arrive, so technically 2024. He's a former professor at Moscow Architectural Institute. Natalia was originally a mathematician, and they have been collaborating in practice now for 28 years. So, Natalia and Alexey, we welcome you to our studio. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Simon, for your warm words. I'm Alexey Ginzburg, the representative of one architectural family from Moscow. And first of all, I would like to thank Simon and Gavin for the opportunity to be here and to tell a few words about the project, which took approximately more than half of my life, 30 years of attempts and 5 years of hard work, very hard work on the site to complete the conservation. So at the moment it's the longest and the most important thing that we managed to do, and I'll try to tell how it was. Of course, I should say about Alexey Ginzburg, who was the leader of one of the leaders of constructivist group. Now all these groups are usually being named under one umbrella, though there were different groups fighting with each other, trying to prove the young architects that their platform was the only right. So Ginzburg was the theoretician of constructivist group, and he wrote a few books. I'll tell about them shortly, a bit later. And the house, the Narkomfin house, is the most important realization that he did, the most important building, because of its social meaning, not only of it was architectural, but social meaning. A good term, social condenser, is very usable in terms of Narkomfin, because it was the manifesto of new lifestyle, and it was nothing. It has nothing in common with houses, communes, which were kind of conception of the early 20th, when some people were trying to invent the life of future constructioners of communism. Not like this idea. Narkomfin, and Ginzburg was writing about this in his book Dwelling, which was consecrated to the idea of new dwelling, new residence. He tried to explain in this book that Narkomfin is the communal house, the house which is creating community, and this social context was maybe the most important in the house, as I told. I'm trying to explain this, to tell about this in every place where I'm telling about the house, because it's very important. Many people, even respecting the aesthetics of avant-garde architecture, are still concerning Narkomfin as kind of social utopia of that time, which had nothing in common with real life, and now can be regarded just a very interesting example of how people could live. But the house was constructed as a residential block for normal families, and now it is working as a residential block where all the apartments has been sold out for different people of different ages with different number of members of their families, of different social status. So this is a very good example that the house was done for the modern era, modern people, including us. But I should say that it's not maybe the main point, but while working on PhD, I made this timeline of our family, because speaking about Narkomfin, I have to tell about it in a family context. It's really, I would say it's really a mess that all the members of the family were architects, and they were writing books or constructing houses. And the situation I've been brought up was very hard, because everything I heard from since I've been born was just about architecture, with a lot of critics of some architecture and rarely about good words about some architecture and so on. You can imagine being architects or close to architects, you can imagine how it could be. So this was important for me to try to work on this project, because my father started it in late 80s last century. In 1986 I started to help him in his attempts to bring the house back to its original state, because it was in a very bad shape already, and it has become it has gone to even worse shape through next 20 years, because all his attempts in later Soviet period and in post-Soviet period were in vain. I was trying to help him like a student architect, making some drawings, and later helping to produce concepts of how it could be used. We were trying every possibility, but it so happened that he tragically has gone in 1997, and it was my debt to him more than to my grandfather to fulfill this story and to complete this story and to finalize the conservation to its final result. But before, I had a very good experience, because my other grandfather, Grigory Barkhin, he also was an architect, and he made one of his most well-known buildings, where the house was the building of Izvestia newspaper in Moscow, in Pushkin Square. This is a very nice photo of Rodchenko in his individual manner. So it so happened that the project of conservation of this house was commissioned to us without any idea that the history of the house was somehow connected to our family. And of course I couldn't say no, and I was trying to formulate the principles of conservation. Being a practicing architect, I had to become a conservation architect, which was not my main occupation at that time. And there was no methodology of work with historical buildings, with listed buildings of avant-garde architecture in Russia. We were trying to learn experience. I tried to learn experience how it was done in France, in England. Isaacan, for example, was asking James Allen, who was the author of Conservation Project, and Winfried Brenner, who was the author of Conservation Project in Dessau. I was trying to squeeze all the experience I could get at that time, because we didn't have any idea how to deal with historical buildings of vanguard, because the situation, how they were constructed, couldn't let us work with them in the same way how it was with historical buildings of different historical styles, because the function was so important in these buildings that you couldn't just make a conservation project or restore them without paying any attention to the function or how to use them, and how to show that function was the principle of architecture from inside to outside, which is quite obvious for us today. So this is just a photo of how it looked like in early post-Soviet years in 1991 or 1993, and the result where we made a conservation of facade with original plaster and tried to remain almost all facade glazing. That was absolutely ununderstandable because people thought that it is rubbish and it's easier to throw it away and to make just a new glazing similar, just looking like this. The value of historical parts remaining, because many of them were already thrown away before us. That was a very important thing to put in minds of those who took the decisions, who was obligatory to finance these works, and so on. We had another construction, another experimental construction site, because before Narkomfin we made the conservation of small part of the complex former laundry, which was constructed together with the residential and communal buildings of this complex of Narkomfin. And we tried already to investigate the technology, how the building, how the house was constructed. And we made experiments on the site thinking about how we could deal with them. This is the photo of how it looks now, just to inspire you that finally we've got the same sense of the house, image of the house, feeling of the house as it was at that period when it was constructed, like this. I was not planning to talk about the building itself, because it's written a lot about it, and I'm sure that many of you know, and some of you already have been there, as I understood. But still, just a few words. I'll explain the structure of the house was quite rational, and what was important that it was. It has embodied the principles of Le Corbusier architecture before Le Corbusier was able to do it himself, let's say. It's very interesting their connection, because constructivists were obsessed by Corbu primarily. The fun fact, when it was a competition for the house Profsoyuza in Moscow, labor unions in Moscow, constructivists, they had 4 or 5 entries for this competition, and when they found out that Corbusier is taking part in the competition, they took away their entries, because they were sure that Corbusier should have a possibility to build something in Moscow. That much they admired him. And he was quite an interesting and complex figure with his after the war residential program. He has shown that the lesson of Narkomfin also influenced him a lot, because his unité d'habitation, his habitats, they have straight connection to Narkomfin house, and it's very interesting how these architects influenced each other through their lives. So this is concrete columns of a very good quality. Later we didn't have necessity to reinforce them except 3. We had to force just 3 columns from all of them. Because this is a gossip in Russia. It was a gossip that all the constructivist houses, they are very interesting architecturally, but they are constructed from rubbish, and that's why it's impossible to conserve them. They should be demolished, maybe with the construction of new buildings of the same shape. This is not true. The quality of these buildings, except maybe a few of them, which were from the very first moment planned like temporary buildings, the quality of construction was excellent. Yeah. And this building was a very good collective work of Ginzburg and group Tech Beton, technical concrete, with a brilliant structural engineer Prokhorov. Their common work made possible the technological breakthrough, because we know this building as a social breakthrough, we admire its aesthetics as an architectural breakthrough, but technologically it was done fantastically. And before our conservation, we didn't know a lot of facts about it. Just working inside of the walls, inside of the ceilings, we understood the real value of that technical solutions, which in fact has become the basis of contemporary construction industry. Many of materials, many of technical solutions. The structure of this building is based, the communication of this building is based on 2 corridors and the apartments of 2 levels and 1.5 levels. So 45 apartments of residential building and the link to the communal building, because the communal life was from the very first point the important idea of the house, where they can have kindergarten near their dwelling, canteen near their dwelling, sport hall, and so on, laundry. All this is absolutely obvious for us today, but for that time in Moscow it was seriously experimental. So these plans are showing the structure of apartments. There is also a very good explanation why this house was not a house commune, because the commune is something to equalize the people. In this house there are 6 types of apartments for different families, for 2 or 3 members of the family, and some of them already for 4, 6. Apartments from 37 square meters to up to 105 square meters. Huge variety, 6 types for different kind of people living in the house. The most well-known are these type F units, the smallest ones, but they're not really small, because today studio of 37 meters is absolutely a good solution for a young man or woman or couple. And this is a studio with the height of the ceiling 230 here and 375 here, because the combination of different heights in these apartments made them seem larger than they've been. And the idea of ventilation, of all sanitary convenience, which is quite, which is also close to us today, because that was the society existing after the pandemic of Hispanka, Spanish flu, which could be comparable to COVID, and a lot of theories about sanitary rules has been invented or formulated after this pandemic. And the architects, especially in this house and some other houses constructed in this time, they were trying to use these new rules, same as Ginzburg. So, I calculated 4 generations of dwellers in this house, and now I'm working on the book, trying to explain not only architectural but also social context, and telling about people who were living there, about their histories. And this is a big rhythm of life. The generation of first dwellers, new elite, new Soviet elite, living there from 1930 to 1941. People who came there after new elite was assassinated in late 30s, after the war in late 40s, and living there until some 70s. And then the period of abandoning of the house, it was due to lack of maintenance, absolutely, not because it was badly constructed. In many parts, the water drainage was not maintained, and the water started to get into small gaps in the walls, like for example with these flower beds, which made this facade looking dramatic. This is the period when some squatters were living there, and then some art elite of post-Soviet period was renting apartments there. And the 4th generation is those people who are living there now after conservation work. But when we started the conservation, it was looking like this. This is very interesting. The drawings. There were not many materials were remaining in archives, unfortunately, because buildings of avant-garde of 20s they were abandoned, and quite a lack of materials about them in archives made the conservation work not very easy. But we found some construction, some structural drawings, which are showing the smart structure of the ceilings using monolith concrete and prefabricated concrete stones, which has been produced on the site of different types. The monolith columns and beams inside of the ceilings made a three-dimensional grid, which was the main structure of the house. Same as stairs, which were done also from monolith concrete in a very good way, because the steps also were prefabricated. And these are photos of construction. This is how the ceilings has been done. These concrete stones were used for ceilings and for walls between the apartments. So very similar stones has been used while on the construction of Bauhaus in the south. A little bit different shape, but the same idea, because they're quite warm, and they can be used, for example, in the ceilings. These gaps were filled in with monolith concrete, and the space between the stones with these metal pieces has become a concrete beam after the concrete was poured into the ceiling. I will tell you that the cost of such structure is approximately 20–25% cheaper than the concrete slab. I was involved once in a project in France of a small mansion, and I understood that workers, construction workers there, the contractor, they used this technology and they proposed it. They proposed it themselves just because it was cheaper. So just because of them, thanks to them, I know this difference. And of course, economy materials was important because Narkomfin was absolutely luxury house at that time. I've been in another Ginzburg houses which has been done in the same technology, or I would say not the same technology, but using the same apartment types. And they were much cheaper. In Moscow, in Ekaterinburg, they've been done much easier, much cheaper. Of course, Narkomfin was really a luxury house of that time, but still the budget was not very high, and they had to look for any economy that they could. This is another type of stones, which was also prefabricated. Sorry, this one, because this is how they looked in the demolished part of stones. And this is what we found, because we found the stones which has been produced by our industry, of the same shape, with even the same amount of gaps in them, and the same dimensions. It was very important because not many parts of the walls, but some parts of the walls we had to make a new cladding, and it was not possible to do with the stones of different size. That's why this absolutely warm wall of 36 centimeters with insulation here, and block and half block from different sides, both sides from insulation. This is the structure of the walls of Narkomfin. We used these stones to make parts of new cladding, for example, like this. And this is part of the ceiling. This is not Narkomfin, this is the laundry where we experimented. We also found the stones similar to those ones they've been in the ceilings, because we couldn't make any conservation. The building was absolutely ruined, so we managed to save some parts of the ceiling, but some parts we had to do. This is a new ceiling, and it looks almost the same as the old parts and how it was constructed originally. Very smart idea of engineering supply, because these pipes also used the gaps in the stones, and all the pipes has been hidden inside of the walls between the apartments. No pipe except heating, because heating was situated horizontally below the windows. All the sewage and water pipes has been hidden in the walls, and this is the ceiling between the second and third floors of the building, where was the change of the size of the apartments, because lower we have there bigger apartments like 78 meters, and above there are apartments of type F, 37 meters, so 2 types F above 1 type K below. And we had to make, they had to make these horizontal parts because the rhythm of these apartments was twice bigger than those which has been above. That's why they had to make these horizontal parts, and it was a mess to work with them, because no one understood that we were going, during the conservation work, we were going to leave all the engineering supply on their places. People didn't believe that this is possible, and we were trying to investigate where they've been with some metal finding machines, making small gaps in the walls. Finally, we had to cut the parts of the stones where the pipes has been, because otherwise we couldn't put them in any other way. But now all the pipes are in the same parts, and even this some of them has been damaged. These steel pipes tried to change very carefully, change on the new ones, letting the ceiling on the same place without killing the ceiling. Sorry for this joke. So these are just the parts we had to take away, because many things has been added to the house, and this is just the diagram of some later pieces that we had to demolish. This is a very specific story about flower beds, because, as I told already, these flower beds was the problem, because they had gaps for draining here, and in some late 50s people fixed these gaps because they didn't want water from after the rain was going out of them. And when they fixed them, the water was couldn't get out of the flower bed, and then it could get in small holes between the stones, and that of course that seriously damaged the concrete structure. It was very complicated to make a contractor not to cut all the flower beds and to make a new one and fix them on the facade. We had to explain to him and to prove that it is not possible, because the metal parts are going from these flower beds to the wall and to the ceiling, and everything was done in the house that you couldn't touch it, or if you were touching this, you could understand that after some time some other part of the house could move. So we insisted on restoring, not making new flower beds, and this was how it was done. These are already restored parts with added concrete, with the original metal frame, which is connecting this structure of the flower bed with this wall and the ceiling there. This is the structure of the elevator. We couldn't avoid it. Of course, I'd better take it away, but developer didn't let me. It was not. It was a private project. No state money. No financing from any charity funds. It was a stupid commercial project. A commercial developer which was trying to do a luxury commercial house from this clubhouse from this building. And finally they've got the prize for the best clubhouse of the year. I guess Alexey Ginzburg could smile somewhere there where he is looking at this, but they've got this prize. So we decided that we are able to leave the lift, the elevator, but we tried to make it as flat as possible. We had to prevent two entries to the cabin from different sides to manage to do this. And we tried to make a projection of the vitrage, original vitrage of the stairs, which is there, on the elevator vitrage. So we have a cabin with a window and the projection of this original vitrage on this lift to make it as invisible as we could do, not touching the historical original facade. So this is how it was, not even the worst state of the building, not the worst. These photos are maybe of some 80s, late 80s. And how it is looking now. It is interesting because most of the columns has been hidden in the ground floor, and that helped to save them, because when we found them, we with special treatments, the layers of paints, and we found the original graphite. They're not black, they're graphite, dark gray, and we made the conservation of this original painting and protected it with a special transparent treatment for painting, for conservation conservation projects. Same thing was with the windows, with the luminaires, with this lighting, which was also built in the ceiling, like they do in modern houses, and all the pieces, metal pieces, has been hidden inside of later structures, and that's why they survived, and we could use them, and all the metal parts of this lighting, they're remaining. Of course, we changed the glasses and put the new electric supply. This is the problem of the bad maintaining that I told about, because there was a draining pipe inside of the wall, and as no one was cleaning it, finally it blew up. And then they tried to put some bricks in the wall of different sort, but it didn't help, and this was a mess. We changed the stones here, we put the pipe with the wire of heating, with the possibility to clean it. So now we protected somehow this elevation from the next situation with lack of maintenance. This is also the comparison of how it was not long ago and how it looks now. The very difficult work we had to do to make the ground level, to move the ground level back to the original level which was existing when the house was constructed. And this wall, this retaining wall, is the difference between the original level and, you see, this is in one level with the park, and here this height of the retaining wall. We had to change all the utilities around building just to make the ground level lower, and that was very difficult, and it was very difficult to find the chain of the city draining system to get all the water which is going to the house, because it's lower than the park. We had to use this horizontal system, and we found the point that they gave us, authorized us to link to the system, to the city system of drainage. The building is consisting of maybe thousands of items. One of our developers, he told that for him this house is like an iPhone, because it's very simple when you look at it, and it has a lot of sense of different things inside. And I think it's a very good comparison, rather straight but quite good, because every part of the house we had to deal with, we were trying to investigate what for it was invented, how it was done, whether we can make a good replica, because we tried to make, make a conservation of all the remaining pieces, because there have been not a lot there. And those which were not remaining, we were making a replica, trying to do it according to the same technology. And that was a big philosophical question for me, because of course I know what is Venice Charter about. And of course I understand that all these replicas is a very tricky thing. I made a decision for myself that function of this house is so important that if we would not show the complexity of it as one thing, as one holistic thing, this will not work, this will not show the importance of this monument. That's why we decided to make replicas in the way which is showing that this is new, and conservation of old pieces, and the way that it could be visible that they're different. This is why I'm talking about this, the windows. The original sliding window system, which was invented especially for this house, was very difficult to work with, because 100 meters length of the house and some deformations which took place during some 80 years of its existence were making very difficult to make new sliding windows. And we insisted that all the frames, all the original frames, were implemented in the new glazing. We found approximately 6 or 7 contractors producing these windows. All of them were telling me that it is not working, that the physical laws are not permitting these windows work. I was telling them that I was young, I was coming to this house, everything worked. And I don't know anything about physical things. So they made examples on the site, and we chose, with investor, we chose from seven companies, which we have chosen 3, and the work was divided between 3 of them, because one was not able to finish this. We understood it, and we understood that we have to divide it into 3 contractors. That was very difficult, because we had to check all the lines and all the borders between different contractors to be straight lines and not to have any deformations. So this is the very smart mechanism of fixing the sliding windows. But we understood that when the house was constructed, they simplified something. They didn't have enough, I don't know, money or just a possibility to make this cylinder. And they made a flat anchor metal thing, metal part instead of it, like here. So we took all the remaining original metal details, and we implemented them into the facade. But the new ones were made according to the project. So they are different, and this is showing what is new, what is real. Now this one. Here you can see, these are the new ones. Ordered in China. It was an expedition of our structural engineer to China. He ordered the frame for the vitrage, for the glazing of a communal building, and these pieces. And that was incredibly funny how they produced it. But these are the new ones. This I already explained about the old frames. That was a battle. How to make the most possible amount of original frames remaining in the house. It was like on the market. I said, we have 80 frames. The contractor told that he's able to restore just some of them. Finally, we used 50 of them. 50 of them, because developer told that he was ready to throw them all because this is too difficult and too risky. in the windows of corridors, we put the old frames because people who are coming in the house, they can see them in the windows in the apartments where just dwellers are inside. We made new windows. And the funny thing is that on the ground and the first floor, they were doing concrete frames for the windows, like Corbu later on. I've seen this thing in Monastery La Tourette that he's done already in 50s. So they've done these concrete frames, as thin, 40 millimeters frame, with one or sometimes two metal piece inside to reinforce them. No one would believe that we can restore them, and we restored some of them. But this photo is showing the process of production, like we're producing the stones of different types. No, one type we found on the market, and another type we were producing on the site, like contractor of the house in 1928. And these concrete frames, we were producing them on the site also. The horizontal windows of the basement, they've been inside in the ground. That's why they've been seriously damaged, and all the metal was corroded. It was not possible to do anything with it. It was also part of that sanitary theory of that time to let sunlight, daylight to the basement. That's why they did around ground floor. We had all these horizontal windows. Their shape was very bad. We made new ones. Oops. We made new ones. This is the process how we were doing them from glass bricks. Very good glass bricks from Czechia, Czech Republic, and this is how they are looking like now. The process of the work, and one window which is inside of the house, because the elevator was added later on, and we had one window between the elevator and the house. We made it like a museification. This is a special glass. You can stand on it, and the window itself is below this glass. And this is how they look like from inside. The roof, another case. Not a lot of tiles on the roof survived through the history of the house. Now this is the scheme, how we tried to put new ones, and we tried to do it in the way that we didn't want to have big pieces of old tiles and big pieces of new tiles. That's why we tried to mix them up with the new ones. The black and gray ones, the gray and the black color is for the remaining historical ones, and the white is for the new that we also produced. And the most complicated was to find same stones, because they've been forced with stones, and we needed to find the stones of the same color, and the color was white. And every market that we were looking for, the color was white. The developer was angry because I stopped again the process, because I told that I'm insisting to find the proper stones of the same color. And the same color was not white, they were different tones of yellow, brown, and so on. Quite natural. It was very difficult. We found it, and now we have this roof in a better situation. This is also a very nice detail. These are the pipes of ventilation. The ventilation, they are looking like chimneys pipes over building, and we managed to conserve all the concrete parts here, but we had to change the wooden parts because they were not workable. Unfortunately, they were not workable anymore. But all the concrete parts are remaining original ones. This is how these wooden parts are looking from below. This is a very good photo of Richard Pear, how it was in, say, in some 80s, late 80s. He came several times to Moscow, and this is one of the photos he used for his Ruins of Avant-Garde book that he published, I even don't recall how many years ago, as a very good, I think it could be a very good decoration for some post-apocalyptic movie which are so fashionable now, like in New York with grass, Will Smith is going with the gun, absolutely. And I recall when I was coming to the house, it was looking like this. So, at the moment, we managed to remain and conserve all metal details, all concrete details, and a lot of these tiles. It was interesting with this railing because it was lost. This is a new part. We found a working drawing of the supporting structure of this railing, and we found the holes in the concrete here when it was fixed. That's why it's like archaeological. Most of the research was absolutely archaeological. And we understood that we should make this replica, though we didn't find any photo of it. And that was tricky. And I was in doubt. Maybe it was not existing. Because there can be a lot of working drawings where nothing has been done according to them. But we found these holes inside of the concrete, and we understood they've been existing, and we made it. Interiors. Black door is going downstairs, white is going upstairs, because the mixture of stairs is a very smart solution, a very compact solution to put one small apartment below another, with the stairs which is one below another. This is also for the units of type F. And the parts where you could touch the real pieces of the house. There were so few of them when we were working, because I was looking like years and years. I was watching how people were throwing away, and some activists were trying to call the police, but no one was interested in this. And that's why when our conservation process started, we understood that not many details were remaining. These are the original door handles, and we made these copies for them. But still, there are remaining few handles like this. And this railing is very nice, because I had also to discuss with the developer why I don't want to change it for a brand new one. The same wooden, very good, of very high quality wood. And why I'm insisting to leave this, which has these damages, on its place. Well, this time I insisted. The corridors of this house some time ago, and now we found even the similar radiators, because we found in one factory we found the radiator. They are producing same kind of radiators that was existing in the house, because they are a little bit different to radiators that we had in late 70s and 80s in Russia. We made replicas of these lamps according to photos, and we put all the electricity in the same metal pipes, looking on the photos how they're looking in the house, because every smallest part of this house was quite important for its design and understanding of its atmosphere, of its ambience. That's why we tried to work with all the details, not leaving it like this. And we found parts of these metal pipes in the house. We used them also. Not many of them were remaining, but still some of them. The color in the house is a question of separate lecture, and it's very interesting because Ginzburg was studying Milano Polytechnic, where a group of artists were trying to experiment at the beginning of the 20th century with rationalization of color and how color is influencing people. I'm sure that preparing our book, I found a girl in Milano's Polytechnic who made a small article and has found in the archives there some materials about this. It's very interesting that Ginzburg was writing articles for the magazine he was editor, main editor of which, Современная архитектура, about rationalization and how color can make how it can influence the people living in the spaces with special colors. Then, when the house was under the construction, Maler Stroy was commissioned with two guys, two professors from Bauhaus, who came to Russia. We know one of them, Hinnerk Schepper, because many people wrote about him, but the second one was also quite important. And that was also the collaboration, I think, how to work with this color. This is our studies in one of the apartments. In most of the apartments, everything was taken off, and we had to do them brand new. But maybe one or two of them we found. These are the amount of colors, which are layers of colors that we found to go to the original one. 6 to 8 times they changed color in the house. They made it. We had these 6 or 8 layers in different parts. The materials. I told in the beginning. I told about the innovation materials that they used there. A good friend of mine, Anke Zalevako, a German explorer from Berlin University, made a brilliant research about them, and this will be also part of our book about Narkomfin. This is one of these materials, xylalite. This is what they do now from cement and sand, but this structure was made of wooden chips. From wooden chips and magnesium instead of cement. So it's not as harmful for people. It's warm. It's quite good. And we insisted in all the apartments. They've been remaining these steps. We proved to the developer that we are able to restore. We found special guys who were working with their hands to restore them, to conserve them. And it's very interesting, they are a little bit different color, I think, because of different chips that they've got. The color of different stairs is different from one apartment to another. As I told that not too many things we could use in the apartments. These are old photos of the bathroom, of the stairs in unit of type K. And this, for comparison, is the same point of view. We put the kitchenette, contemporary kitchenette, on the place where the kitchen was planned in this apartment, in the same place. And we used more or less the same, but as minimalistic as we could find sanitary equipment and the tiles of the same type and same size for the bathrooms. The colors were used in such a way that warm colors were open to the western facade. This is the sunny part of the house. The western sun was working with the different kinds of warm color gamut. This is one of the apartments that we've done according to the real original scheme. We made samples in all the apartments. We found some samples, and I was proposing to every buyer of the apartment, I was proposing, let us do it in a color scheme. But if he was not to agree, developer told that we'll do kind of white box. We'll use the color of the facade, which is very far from white as it could be concerned. So quite complex color, not white at all. And we made a wooden floor instead of this xylalite, which is in this apartment, for example. There was a story with one of the buyers. I asked him, the developer asked me to talk to him. And the problem was that the house was not finished yet, and the guy has already bought the apartment, and he wanted to install bidet. I didn't understand how it could be installed there, because all the bathrooms are very tiny. But he wanted to talk to an architect to ask for a bidet. I posed him 2 questions. I said, should we go for a color scheme, original color scheme of the apartment? He told, no, I don't like it. White is okay for me. Okay. Maybe I told him we should use xylalite floor as original material for this house. I don't want all this rubbish, let's do it originally. And I told him, if you don't want color scheme and xyloid floor, why should I make myself think about your bidet? No color scheme, no bidet. So these are all different kinds of the color. It's very lighty and it's very space, the space is much bigger than it is in reality. We used to think that when it is white, should look wider than it is. But it's interesting that with the different colors, but working separately with the eastern sun, morning sun, because this cold gun was facing the eastern facade of the house, and the warm gun, as I told, afternoon sun, is make the space very wide. I should be quicker, I'm sorry, because I can't speak a lot about this, and I'll try to be quicker. This is the communal building. Its shape, part of the glazing was broken and changed to the brick wall, same as Germans has done in 30s by Bauhaus when they have thrown away all the steel glazing. This is kind of comics how we worked with this roof part of the communal block, communal building. I'm sorry. This original photo, what we had and how we had, how we were taking off this, and found the original pergola, which survived there because metal was not corroded. This is this pergola. We had to change just these pieces for new ones, but the rest of the metal pipes remained the original ones. The work with the glazing, we used original glazing, though it was corroded. We used it for the internal line, and the external line we commissioned in China, as I told, using the same type of the profile, of the steel profile. So we have original metal inside on both levels, and a new one outside. Another example of xyloid and our conservation was like this is original xyloid, and these are parts. Oh no, sorry. The light one are the parts that we added, and the darker one on the corners, which was remaining. We wanted to have this border between new, between replica and the original one. Same on the floor and the interiors of communal building. When we were trying to investigate, found that there was a shelf here from concrete. We made it again, and the space, how it is looking like now, it was a battle to make these green walls, because we had a group of students of Restoration College on summer practice, because professional restorers didn't want to take off this 7-8 layers of paint away, and our department for historical buildings, they told me, please don't do all the wall, it's enough if you make a small example like 30 to 30 centimeters, and I don't want 30 to 30 centimeters. And that was the last time when our architects surviving the site was not led by the guards on the site, was not led inside. It was a conflict with the developer. I was ringing to different departments to ask for commissions for someone to go there for inspections. Thank you for inspections to go there, and they were not letting us in. But then finally we shook our hands. We said it was a long story for years. It's not a good way to finish it in such situation. So this is how it is looking like now. How it was has become ruin, and the situation after conservation. Just a few words, I'm sorry, I don't want to make it long, a few words to show this family context my father, Vladimir Ginzburg, who was at the beginning of the attempts to do something with the house, and his works of 60s and 70s, which are showing that modernism has become, after Stalin's death, has come again to Russia, to Soviet Union, because it was a symbol of some freedom and a very sensual architecture in comparison with the empire historical buildings which were constructed before that. So this is another example, and another. My mother, who is also an architect and was working in the Kursky terminal in Moscow, one can see some interest to Ponti and Nervi's structural experiments with concrete in Italy, very much. They all were obsessed with modernism at that time. And just few examples of what we were doing in our practice, working either with reconstruction of some historical parts of Moscow, making some new buildings, living together with some historical architecture of industrial beginning of 20th century. Another residential building that we've done in Moscow some 10 or 15 years ago. Small villa, we've done them several like this. Sochi, the Black Sea shore. I just put it here because several times I was trying to think how I could deal with the Narkomfin legacy, and I was trying somewhere. I was interested to put some apartments of 1.5 levels or 2 levels height. This building has open galleries from another side because it's this side it's facing the sea, and another side are the same galleries, open galleries like in Narkomfin. Then we had an experiment with one company which we finished with nothing, unfortunately, where we tried also, was just a few years ago, we were trying to make small apartments. These are Narkomfin apartments, and this is what we were trying to produce. And then a stupid law has been announced that apartment in Russia now cannot be less than 28 square meters, and we had 25. So the project stopped on this. And another, not residential, but public building, which is under the construction now. So, I'm sorry to take so much time. I just like to advertise the huge work of Natasha, who published all Alexey Ginzburg books in Russian and in English. And if someone is interested, we took a few of them here. You can look and even buy them if you're interested. Because all the books of Ginzburg, we made kind of reprint editions. So we translated them into English, but we remained the same layouts, the same design to have this ambience of the time when they've been published. Thank you very much for your patience.
Hopefully you can answer some questions. But absolutely amazing to just to see that's really what's overwhelmingly apparent in your attention to the detail, and that a word I've learned recently, mirology, the part whole, the way in which in this context the restoration of a building seems to depend so much on that precision. And I was really struck by this kind of, we talk about technology and that was self-evident, but also everything looked a bit like a painting. You know, I'm not just talking about the paint, it was the way the floors were made, the way the windows were made, the materiality, it's just incredibly rich. It was wonderful. Questions? Joe?
When we were there in 2012, you were desperate because you didn't think it was going to be possible to do this. And it was partly because all the apartments were owned by different people. and you didn't see how you could get in there and do it. So what happened to make it possible?
The power of dollar.
What?
Power of dollar. I could do nothing with that, but we found one investor, one businessman who was trying to collect all the apartments, but he failed. He collected almost all of them, but not all of them. And as it usually happens in new rising economy, his business has been broken, and he just had some credits in banks and these apartments. He couldn't pay his credits. That's why the bankers they took these apartments.
Loan, not credit.
Loan. I'm sorry. Yes. So the bankers took the apartments like compensation of the loans he couldn't pay,
Yeah.
and they became new developers.
What the bank did?
Yeah, the bankers, yes, but they had also development business. And then during the construction, during the conservation work, their bank has lost the license because there also has been in conflict with several businessmen. And they left one, of course, to London, another one to another country. It's very obvious for Russian businessmen, you know. And their lawyer has become kind of the one at power because no one could take the decisions. For me, it was a good time because with them I was arguing every day. I was fighting them every day. It was really complicated, and 30 years on the side, I know what is the construction about and what are the interests of a developer, a contractor, and that they're certainly not the interest of an architect. But this house was the most stressful experience I ever had in my life because I never had so much resistance to any proposal that I was doing, and I had to insist on everything I was trying to do. And if I was not coming there one day, I could find something demolished, taken away, changed. And I had these conflicts a few times a week with these bankers, developers. We were shouting at each other on the construction site. But so when they left to better countries, it was much easier for me to insist and to implement my ideas with their lawyer, whom I knew for a long time and who was more flexible than they. This is a little bit how it was.
Thank you.
Other questions?
You spoke about it winning, did you call it clubhouse competition?
Yes.
Is it possible to discuss a little parallels between the clubhouse idea and the Casa Commune idea, original idea of the house?
I think it's very simple. This house was a house for elite. It was not an order. I mean, me personally, I'm for the idea that all people should live the same life. But in real life, it happens very rarely. And some people are wealthy and some not. Some people are mighty and some not. It so happened that this house was constructed for elite of that time. It's not making it neither better nor worse. It's just the fact. So then, when it has got that price as a luxury clubhouse for a small amount of apartments, I think it was quite logical, my point of view, because people who were living here were not the workers, or neither the clerks of Commissariat of Finance or Ministry of Finance of that time. They were bureaucrats from the government of Russian Federation, not Soviet Union, but Russian Federation, or some bright people like artists like Deineka, or scientists like Simashka, or poets like Antonov Ovseyenko, or architects like Ginzburg, who also was living in this house. And so it happened like this when it was constructed. Ginzburg, he just wanted to show the example how proper life should be organized. We don't see any golden parts in this house. We don't see any pieces of expensive marble on the walls. But its quality, how it was done, makes it elitarian, because the quality and the and the holisticity of this house, the fact that every piece of it is serving to the people, its anthropocentricity, I would say, is making it elitarian, is making it exceptional. But of course, constructivists, they wanted all the houses be like this. If they could do.
I'm sorry, may I add something to you? It's a difference of meaning the clubhouse, because here clubhouse is a house where the people living there are have some sort of idea or hobby the same, yes?
Yeah.
But in Russian meanings, clubhouse means a house of elite. This is absolutely different meaning. So
Okay,
the
like a
word
small
means-
private club.
Yeah.
Posh houses.
Bush housing, yeah. Thank you. But they call this clubhouse, but in Russian meaning. So don't be confused with it.
No, I was interested in the parallel. The building is known as a social condenser. You know, it's an
Yes.
idea about
Yes.
about having a political and a cultural kind of role as well. I'm just interested in the parallel with what it's doing today.
This is a different sort of...
I would tell you that we found we made interviews for the dwellers for the book. We made interviews with the dwellers who were living there in the 60s and 70s. I found a person who is alive, born in 1930, with absolutely clear mind, who gave me an exceptional interview about her life in the house. From 1933, she was living in this house from 1933, and I also, of course, I know the information about people who were renting apartments there in 2010 before conservation, and people who are living there now. All of them, without knowing each other, are telling me one story: how this house has made a community of them, how the house, the program of the house. Made a community from these people, how they spent time there, how they were using these public spaces of the house, which are a lot, and this combination between park and the house, the space below the building, on the rooftop, and different parts, these corridors, which were called streets in Le Corbusier's habitats. This is also part of public space of the house. So this is really what I'm trying to explain, a sort of modern culture of people living in the cities, because we are admiring public space, all the urbanization which has started in the United States some 40 years ago or whenever there, and came to Europe and then came to Moscow. All this is about quality of urban space. And this house was programming the quality of public space, making it, shifting it from inside of the house to the public space of the city. This flexibility of the space, not only flexible space of the apartments, but also flexibility. You know, this interesting fact, I didn't put this photo here because there are so many small details, I couldn't tell all about them today. For example, there's a corridor, and you have the entry from the apartment to this corridor, and there is an open gallery on the first floor, and you have the doors where you can go from the corridor to the open gallery, and every door to the gallery is in front of the door from the apartment. So the private space of the apartment, which is absolutely private inside, is mixing with the public space of the corridor, intersecting it through these doors to go to outside gallery. This combination of spaces makes the house and the space of the house so rich, and gives the possibility that the dwellers feel themselves everywhere they are like at home, like in their apartment.
So would it be right to say that, in a sense, the DNA of the building and the intuition of the people, irrespective of the epoch or time or period or whatever, and irrespective of the privilege or not, that somehow it derives the same reaction, and people have responded similarly over a century, which is nearly a century.
Yes, because this is a modern era, And all the architects in 20s, not all, but all these vanguard groups, they were visionaries, and they understood the globalization of the world, whether you like it or not. They understood this tendency, and they understood that this is a symbol of a new epoch which is coming to change the historical epoch. And people, their interests, even though we had so many changes through last 50 years, all these technological revolutions, still we're much closer to those peoples living there in the 30s than to some our ancestors from 19th century. There's a breakthrough between.
Beautiful kind of, well, for I'm sure many people in this room, we all share a kind of enthusiasm and a determination to make social buildings. And actually that irrespective of the time and the complexity of the technology and so on, that at the heart of a good building is that capacity, that humanity. And when the building was, as I understand it, it was designed in what you might describe as the kind of, well, obviously constructivist, but Lenin, revolutionary Leninist period, is that right, sort of? And by the time it was being built, we're into Stalin and a traditional... No? So there's no loss of... I was just reading something this morning that suggested it arrived, it got built at a kind of critical moment where it was at risk, let's say, of not quite being what was intended, and who moved into it immediately afterwards. And I guess my question was, did it actually get built differently from the way it was, in any way, differently from the way it was designed originally?
No. Exactly this building was built 100% according to its design. And after that, Ginzburg has written the book with a very detailed analysis. This book helped us in the course of restoration and conservation project, because we could get many information from it that we couldn't find in archives. So it was constructed in 1930. The book is published in 1934. But the paradigm has changed between these dates. In 1932 was declared a special announcement about the creation of the unions, special unions for the people of free professions, artists, writers, cinematographers, architects, because the state wanted to control them, and the new ideology was trying to take under control all the people who could think separately. That's why this book, Ginzburg, is writing special words, criticizing something in this house, because it was already...
criticizing himself.
Yeah, criticizing himself. Because in other way he couldn't publish this book. It's like in China, cultural revolution, when they had to blame themselves publicly. It was not the Chinese invention, it was the same cultural revolution in 30s and beginning of 30s in Russia.
Special language where he wrote that he made a mistake and he admitted this mistake and how he worked out for the future projects, but the own and under the course of the Soviet Party. How he would like to forward.
Shostakovich too.
Yes, and we talked when we discussed Novosibirsk with Gavin today. We talked about theater in Novosibirsk, which was constructed. The construction started as a modern, as vanguard building of constructivism, but it took a long time, and the first team of contractors was repressed. It was finished in the late 30s with a lot of decoration. Already changed, not compositionally, but mostly the decorations by decorations of facades, elevations. So it happened, and there are other examples of this, but not in the case of Narkomfin.
But in this case,
Theater,
this
Miracle Theater.
building, in this case, the building's intact.
Synthetic
The
theater.
explanation has changed, whereas the Novosibirsk theatre, actually the building itself, didn't make it in its
Oh, it's almost baroque inside.
Yeah.
Because initially the Merhold theatre has been designed by Barakin and
Yeah, by my another grandfather, Mikhail
Another
Barkin, and
We have to admit you're well connected.
they've done this project of synthetic theater where the concert hall is now, but finally they were too young. And another architect, Chichulin, in the 40s, he finished this
made another
empire decoration of facades, which is existing now in Mayakovskaya Square. Yeah, this is an example of what you're saying. Yeah?
But as I understood it, the Narkomfin building came out of the research of Stoichkov and that whole work which your grandfather was in charge of.
Yes, Ginzburg, he invented this section, this group,
Three two sections.
group in Stoichkov, which was making experiments, was trying to work out experimental residence, experimental dwelling. Absolutely, you're absolutely right. And their idea was to formulate the new principles of dwelling for New Russia. Because and there they invented these units of different types, F, K, so you can imagine that there have been A, B, C, D before this F and K. And they were trying to calculate the optimized solutions for the volume, the size of the room, the height of the ceiling, to make it possible to construct for a big mass of people, because lack of dwelling was incredible.
Keith.
I thought that was an amazing kind of exposition of the journey you've been on, this sort of forensic analysis, the carving away, and I guess a lot of the bad bits, and I guess some material science and all that stuff. I didn't quite get whether the building was protected in any way by the city, or historically protected, or I didn't get that, so it's probably not, is that right?
It had the status of listed building.
Okay.
We have two types of listed buildings.
Yeah.
Regional listed buildings and federal listed buildings.
So you had some support from the city in what
this
you
is not a support. It's a very weak protection at that time. Now it's the laws are more cruel and people can't break them. But in late 80s, in 90s, all this couldn't stop any ambition at that time.
So what I then take from that is the incredible tenacity that you and your team have shown to get this through, particularly when you have an investor who actually doesn't really care. And so the fact that you managed to sort of fight every day to get all these details made, the operating mechanisms, the windows and the window detailing, getting all that to happen. It's extraordinary. I'm slightly amazed you weren't sacked, actually, or fired, given that you were like this all the time. I'm really glad you weren't, but really, and I'm sure that the building is really beautiful, and you've done a fantastic job between you. And I'm just slightly amazed that you managed to survive to get to the end of it. So well done.
Thank you very much. But I would say that even in London, where the protection, the laws protecting listed buildings are quite strong, still I hear from time to time stories about this or that change of listed building, or how some architect killed some historical building. Like we have in Moscow a lot of campaigns like this. In fact, the protection is existing. I wouldn't say that there is no protection. And at the moment is much better than before. That time we were starting this process, it was quite weak. Now I'm trying to make, it takes time also, unfortunately, but just for saving this house, I'm trying to put it from the list of regional listed buildings to the federal ones, where is much more difficult to do something with the house.
And did you say how long it took, by the way? I may have missed that again.
Sorry?
How long, when you started, how long from starting the project at design stage to...
Well,
I missed
our attempts, which were in vain, almost all of them, were from 1986 to 2016.
Wow.
Directly 30 years. Then in 2016 we started to make a conservation project with these new owners, and we finished in 2020. From 2020 to 2021, because we had to work on the project. We made a project to start the construction, but then we were making so many experiments on the construction side, and we had to work with these archaeological surveys, making new solutions, new technical solutions for replicas. All the time we were constructing the house. So I would say from 2016 to 2020, these 5 years, my life was a mess. Absolutely.
Yeah, you touched on this with your downpipe in the wall and installing heating elements in that. But I'm just wondering, where you are taking so many historic details and historic manufacturing techniques, how you don't end up, or what measures you take so you don't end up installing the same defects, 90 years later.
It's a good question. We were thinking about it. Certainly we were thinking about it. But what was the problem? That visionary architects of 20s, unfortunately, they didn't have the industry, especially the construction industry, which was ready to fulfill their demands. What we have now, 100 years later, is much more sophisticated solutions, from construction chemistry to different details and new materials and details which can be done, especially like this fixing element for the windows, for example. We could produce them in China or somewhere else. In China it was just the cheapest version, but they couldn't do it. They could use this anchor metal piece, and that's all. They couldn't make this cylinder. Now we can. This is just an example. The same thing with the pipes. We have absolutely different pipes now, which we understand will survive there. Even those pipes in the walls, there was not a big problem with them. Most of the problems were with the absence of maintenance of the house and draining when the water was in the walls and in the roof.
And I'm thinking about your sills, where you've got your plant pots in the sills. Do you have, I take it, there are maintenance programs in place to ensure that they don't end up being blocked again?
Yes.
And you have those
we wrote a book maybe a few years later, maybe after we could write it even better. But we wrote a manual with the explanation of what we did and how we propose to use this or that thing. Yes. Yes.
I was wondering if you could speak maybe a bit more about this language of precedent and inspiration that's come from it. It seemed to flow all the way through the presentation about whether in parts where the building has inspired a lot of other architects, Marsden, Corbusier, XYZ, but also where it took inspiration from slightly in this kind of Milanese kind of colour experiments. Because there are parts in the plan that one could slightly say bear reference to things like the Florence Charter House in this asymmetrical double-heighted volume that obviously at the time was similar to Corbusier's thinking, and whether you've uncovered any, in the work that you've done on the building, whether you've uncovered anything or theorised that there are any buildings that perhaps inspired the design.
It's an interesting thing, a very deep one. It's certainly not the theme of my of what I was telling today, because it's for me it's a little bit it is lying a little bit aside to what I was telling about. I was telling just about details, about how to work with the building to remain these details. What you have mentioned, this is interesting for every architect, and not only in the course of Narkomfin house, but the global world, and not even global world, when people were using different motifs of antique architecture, ancient architecture. Since then, until now, where everything is in the web and you can find information. You're trying sometimes to look if you're not copying anyone subconsciously when you don't even think about it. In this way, we can look at it in the historical perspective. It's interesting to talk how Ginzburg and Corbusier, how those Italian artists influenced Ginzburg, and then German painters came and took part in it. I think is for me at the moment in this context, this is just a very good example that the world is global and people like we architects are thinking about many things in a similar way. I think that this is a very good base of our work when we understand that we are not alone and we have this something in the air that is same for people in different circumstances in different countries thinking, let's say, just about architecture at least.
We know we know not a lot about that. We knew about Le Corbusier because they exchanged the mails, and after the Iron Curtain happens, they wrote sort of articles addressed to each other. Ginzburg printed it in Modern Architecture, Corbusier replies in Architecture d'aujourd'hui, and it was possible to exchange the ideas. We know about Lisitsky. They studied together with the same group of architects in Riga's Polytechnical Institute. We found it in a museum in Riga because we were not involved deeply to the historical part of their relationship, but we found that Lisitsky made the design of the furniture for some Ginzburg projects, and definitely at the time they were in contact and influenced to each other. Lubetkin studied in Futamas at the same time when Ginzburg was a professor there, so they were also influenced to each other. So I think it could be interesting to make some more research to that, but it was not a point of the architectural restoration class.
Yes, it's an interesting topic. And 20s, the borders were open. Russians were going to Germany, to France. There was a lot of exchange. Everything stopped after early 30s. And then it has stopped. Yeah, that's right.
There is a kind of story that Korb took a set of Ginzburg drawings of the Narkomfin back to Paris with him. And
Yes,
certainly,
yes. Famous story.
L'Architecture Avanti published this building
Yes.
in the late 20s. So if that great European conversation was going on.
Absolutely. That's what we're saying about. Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes.
This might be a bit off a different direction, but the shape of the building suggests that there's a fairly large enclosed space, and you mentioned that you had to adjust the landscape levels. I was wondering if the landscape itself had any relation to the structure, or if it was sort of an afterthought.
Originally, when they were looking for the land, for the plot of the land, it was the land beside two mansions. They had their gardens there, so it was an empty place, and then the slope, which was going to the Moscow River. And that was a possibility to build on this empty place. And later on, when the garden ring, big street on the place of the former walls of Moscow was created in 30s. My father told me how when he was living in the house, he has seen how the trees from this garden ring, because it was called garden ring because it was the belt of gardens originally. So they put the trees and they replanted them into a small park in front of this house. These trees has been planted already in late 30s, in 1936 or 1937, when my father was like 7 or 8 years old. So there is a certain connection with this landscape, and I was trying to combine different parts of this complex, the park, the former laundry, and the Narkomfin, together into one space. It was very complicated. We were discussing this in Moscow, but unfortunately circumstances didn't permit it to do, but I'm still waiting, because I understood with this house it's necessary to wait sometimes for 30 years and you can achieve some results. So I'm still thinking about that maybe we'll manage to combine this space of Narkomfin, espace Narkomfin, combining this park in front of the building, the laundry and the house itself together into one public space.
Alexey, you've been on your feet for an hour and 3/4. So I'm going to I think we want to say thank you to your grandfather for designing this visionary building, your father Vladimir for initiating a process some, what's the maths, 39 years ago, I think, and you two for restoring it, talking about it, and actually I have to thank Ivan, who was a student of mine and Tom's, and subsequently has worked with all of us here for introducing us to you. And that rare moment where there's a connection made over what is now basically a century. Isn't that quite extraordinary? Thank you.